not see that. Mr. D.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs Podcast. We're in season 4, episode number 18. Hello, Andy.
Well, just
We're
water.
on a songs edition tonight, which is our music episode on Thursday nights. Tonight is March 16th, 2023, the eve of St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. Well, see, I'm British. It's just the 17th tomorrow. We don't
Just
care.
the 17th.
Yeah, we don't need a holiday to drink.
And and here is we've got music, concerts, tours, album review, and all sorts of goodies. Now, I always like doing these, Andy, because even though they're albums I know I'm familiar with, there's always something we pick up that's new. So tonight we're gonna do a little Black Sabbath.
A little black. You never do a little Black Sabbath though.
Black Sabbath is tonight, and the episode is we're gonna do the album for Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell. Now, the cover artwork here is was taken from. I'll get to it here, but it had a story behind it. It was a old 1928 photo, and they decided to use it with angels instead here for Heaven and Hell. But it's 3 angels. They're smoking and playing cards. So we know we're going to be off on a good stint here. But Heaven and Hell is the 9th studio album by English heavy metal band Black Sabbath, released April 1980. First album to feature vocalist Ronnie James Dio. And so they got rid of Ozzy Osbourne in 1979, and the rest of the band stayed there. They just got the new lead vocalist, which will come up later in my question for you, Andy.
Yes.
You like to talk about bands transforming and getting new people.
Yep.
Did they keep the band name the same or not? This is one of those that it's very different. Yeah, Black Sabbath with Ozzy is very different than Black Sabbath with Dio, and I think they would have been better off changing the name of the band here because it's got a totally different sound.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that coming up here. So they had the falling out with Ozzy and brought in Ronnie James
Are we
Dio.
thinking drugs had anything to do with it?
There was lots of things going on. Lots. So let's start off with the band members, Andy, because a lot of these have been around for a long time. Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, Bill Ward on drums, and there's some keyboards here by Jeff Nichols on keyboards. But they bring in Ronnie James Dio. Dio was in the band Elf and in the band Rainbow and was looking to do a solo project and get his own band at the same time. Tommy Iommi was in the process of getting a new vocalist and was looking around. She talked to Sharon Arden.
Yes. Her dad
Now we
was in
know
the
her as
music
Sharon
business.
Arden. She says, you guys got to meet up with this guy named Ronnie James Dio. You guys have got to get together and put them in touch. So Ozzy later, marries Sharon. Dio gets together, and they initially discuss this, Andy. They discuss forming a new band rather than a continuation of Black Sabbath.
Yep.
The pair met again by chance, this time at the Rainbow Bar on Sunset, the old hangout for Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yes.
They got together and says, Dio's seeking a new project. Iommi's looking for a new vocalist. It must have been fate, Dio said, quote, because we connected so instantly. The pair kept in touch via telephone. Remember now, this is 80s. There's no no smartphone, no instant messaging, no direct tweets.
No TikTok.
No TikTok. He arrived at Iommi's house in Los Angeles for a relaxed, kind of a get-to-know-you jam session. On that first day, the duo finished the song Children of the Sea. Now, this is a song that Iommi had wrote and had written, the music part of it, long before Osbourne was fired. He wanted this to be on the next album. But it had long been tossed aside because they didn't think it was going to work. Now, working on the album, before they brought in Dio, the band convened in Los Angeles for 11 months to record a new album, a process described by guitarist Tony Iommi as highly, quote, highly frustrating, never-ending process. And Osbourne became fed up with the experimentation of the preceding 2 albums, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. He preferred the band's earlier, heavier sound. And and they had this song "Children of the Sea." In fact, Iommi reveals that he still has a possession. He's in his possession, still has a recording featuring Osborne singing an early version of what later became "Children of the Sea" with different lyrics and a totally different vocal melody. He had that recording. Well, it got pitched aside. Dio comes in. He says, "Hey, let's do this today." Literally today, they hash it out. So Dio said also, quote, "Sabbath as a band was floundering. And with my inclusion into it, we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps, cared a lot about each other, and we knew we could do it again, especially under the banner of a band that had been so successful." So it had been around for what? It was around for 10 years.
Yep.
And then, but get this, Andy, get this. No, Sabbath's lineup at the time was in a state of chaos as the band prepared to enter the studio to record what would become the album Heaven and Hell. Ozzy's gone. Drummer Bill Ward was battling personal issues. His mother and father both died recently, and he was very close with Ozzy. And so he was still reeling from the fact that the band fired Ozzy and was dealing with his things via drugs and alcohol, as we put it. He never really got over that. So he was really not himself. Bassist Geezer Butler was going through a divorce, and his future with the band was also in question. So Dio says, "Look, we need a bassist. We don't know if Geezer Butler's going to be here. So I'll take over for the time being." Dio played bass a little bit in Elf and Rainbow. He says, I'll fit in, but we need a bassist." Tommy Iommi says, "You know what? I'm going to contact my close friend Frank Zappa, and maybe he can put us in touch with a bassist." And eventually, let's see. So they get Craig Gruber to come in. Craig Gruber, former Elf and Rainbow bassist, to come in. They get him in the mix. At this time, Geezer Butler says, "I'm ready to go," comes back and takes over. He put his divorce behind him. He was ready to go. Now, even though Bill Ward, the drummer, had personal issues, he still wasn't even happy with the direction Black Sabbath was moving in. He didn't know what was going on. And so they recorded it. They get it out. And Bill Ward comes up later in the story. Here's the songs they released, Andy. Here we go. It's Neon Nights. Nights spelled with KN at the beginning. Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, Lady Evil, and Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell was never released as a single, but it's probably their most popular song on the entire album. I think everyone knows this song, but it was not released as a single. I didn't know that. The rest of the songs were Wishing Well, Die Young, Walk Away, and Lonely Is the Word.
8 songs only.
8 songs, 39 minutes. It's very, I listened to it today, and they recorded this between October 1979 and January of 1980. They got together, recorded it, produced it. It's considered heavy metal, 39 minutes, and produced by Martin Birch. And this was coming off their Never Say Die album. And the following year, they released Mob Rules. So they recorded the album. It's released. Now, the fans love Ozzy, right?
Yep.
Fans love Ozzy. They start touring with Ronnie James Dio, this small 5'4" dude. And the fans are used to Ozzy in the front spot on the stage for 10 years. Some of the kids hated it, and they'd shout, "Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy." But over the months of the tour, Ronnie won them over and became a big fan. I mean, the fans loved Ronnie James Dio. So they released the album. They go on tour. They had I believe, I don't know if it was a 60 or 70 date tour. The North America tour was broken up halfway through. Halfway through the tour in the North America, Bill Ward says, "I'm done. I can't do this." Quits in the middle of the tour. Now, I did not know this, but guess where the last date to the stop was before the last show Bill Ward played was here in Bloomington at the Met Center.
Met Center, there we go.
And I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No.
plays the Met Center, and the overwhelming sense of his life just not getting together. He said, I'm out. Called up Ronnie James Dio and says, I'm gone. I got to take off. He was already at the airport. Well, now they've got the rest of the tour booked. They immediately cancel the next 2 weeks of show dates after playing the Met Center in Bloomington. And this is when Ronnie James Dio says to Vinny Appice, come play drums. We need someone as a drummer. This is Carmine's brother, right? Yep. Come on in. And he said in 2 weeks he'll be available. He said, bring your gear, pack up your drums. We're playing a location in Hawaii the next time you play. Outdoors. So on the flight, he takes a notebook and in pen writes down all these crib notes, all these notes of all the songs that they play for the set list, for the 15 songs that were on the set list. And Vinny's trying to just put notes together, how he can play it, what he can use to remember, what's the beats, all these jottings down on the note. So they get there in Hawaii. It's outdoors. They start the concert, and a few songs in, a downpour comes, and all of Vinny's notes are smeared. The rain is all over the notes, worthless.
It finally rained in Hawaii.
And so that's how the band, they finished up. They kept Vinny then on as drums going forward. But that's how Heaven and Hell got started. Bill Ward's last show was Met Center. Many, many years of drug and alcohol abuse for Bill Ward. In fact, when questioned the album Heaven and Hell, he said, I have no recollection of recording that album at all. I have no memories of even recording that 3-month period.
That is so scary.
Now, he has been sober now for 30, 35 years. Now, the problem with being sober is and getting clean, and he hasn't touched anything. I don't think a cigarette, drugs, alcohol, a cigarette. He really put on weight and got to be a very large man. Ozzy back in 2013, who was still very close with him at the time, Bill Ward, went on a public radio interview and talked about the members of the band Black Sabbath. And he said, really let Bill Ward have it by saying, oh, the guy's grotesquely obese. He's just so huge, and he let his body go. They asked Bill Ward what he thought of that. And he says, well, it was hard, but I now have one less friend. He really didn't want to talk to him.
Wow.
They have since made up, allegedly. But he said, I'm doing all I can to keep my life in order. And yes, I've gotten big, put on weight, but that's what something's got to be replaced. Food was the issue. He replaced his drug habit with food, became a very large man. But sober, clean and sober to this day. So that's Black Sabbath. Now, here's the back artwork of the back of the album.
Yep. Which is very cool.
So I was going to bring that up. They also had another band, or someone did something like this, and they got an artist to come in and say, let's do something that kind of matches. The back cover illustration is by Harry Carmine, and did the artistic work there. The album cover is taken from the Lynn Curley Smoking Angels artwork, where they copied from a piece of art from 1928 that was similar, and they just made them into angels here, playing cards and smoking. But Andy, very good album. All the songs are good. Some of them start out slow. You almost got a sense or a feeling that it's a ballad, but it's not. And it gets into some what I call just pure hard rock music. I didn't know a couple of the songs that they released had music videos. I went through and watched them this afternoon. And, this to me sounds like a Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah, it's very rainbow-ish.
Yeah, very rainbowish. That's what he was in. And then, he spent a couple years there and then broke out on his own, I think, in 83. But it doesn't sound like a Black Sabbath tune album to me. Ozzy is Black Sabbath.
Right. To me, it's kind of the whole when Sammy Hagar took over Van Halen. Still a great band, but it wasn't Van Halen.
Not quite the same. I mean, it went platinum. The album went platinum. It was very good and underrated when you look at Black Sabbath stuff. You typically go to the other harder stuff, but this is very clean. This is very Ronnie James Dio-esque.
Yeah, the Sabbath stuff with Ronnie James is still good stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's just I got to really stop and think when I listen to it, going, was this Rainbow? Was this Dio solo stuff? Was it Sabbath? Which one was it? Because that's just Dio. It all sounded good, but you couldn't tell what album it was from or what group it was with. And it's kind of the same way with Sammy Hagar. Was that a Van Halen song? Was that his other things he did with Neil Schon? Was it his solo stuff? What was it? You don't know what genre it came from him. But a very good album.
No. Yeah, no, Zakk Wylde, the former guitarist for Ozzy, didn't like it and wrote a very critical review by saying, no, Black Sabbath is Ozzy. Ronnie James Dio is not Ozzy, part of Black Sabbath, Now, keep in mind, Zakk Wylde was a huge Black Sabbath fan, and so
played out some Ozzy solo stuff.
So it's kind of very different. It's a very different, and I think the Black Sabbath fans, when this change took place, took it the hardest. I was not a Black Sabbath fan back when this was all going on. I just really only knew one version of Black Sabbath and kind of liked them all. But they took it the hardest. The devotees.
And Zakk Wylde's kind of biased because he did some of Ozzy's solo stuff too. He was with him, so
yes. So it wasn't real surprising, to hear that. But
first of all, a couple things I want to say. First of all, about Dio. Let's get this straight. It's this way for Dio. This is not it's what's the term? It's called a Mikado. It's an Italian thing. It's the evil eye. It's to ward off spirits. It's something he did to let Granny. He just saw Grandma do it all the time, and he didn't think twice about it. How many things has Grandma and Grandpa taught us we did that we just do because Grandma did it? Whatever. But that's where that comes from. I thought that was kind of cool. Everybody kind of gives Dio the credit for getting the metal horns, the devil horns, just turn it around. But I don't think he really cares either. But I do have a few things to say, not per se about Sabbath in general. See, I got the bats back there for Ozzy.
Got some notes. Andy's notes. I see it. Yes.
We're going to speak of Sharon Osbourne, the manager. You're going to think remember the band to talk about their stuff. We're going to talk about Sharon. She was, at the time in the 80s, very, very well connected. It was almost who didn't she work with band-wise. Some of the acts she worked with, let's see, where's my list here? Gary Moore, Motorhead, Lita Ford, the Smashing Pumpkins. She turned down a chance to work with Guns N' Roses and Fred Durst and Courtney Love. So she's kind of got a connection to things. Not going to get into her media stuff. We're not going to talk about Sharon Osbourne, the TV person. We're going to stick with music here. She did have some bands that she bumped heads with. Didn't get along so well with. One of them, Iron Maiden. One of her controversies with Iron Maiden is at Ozfest performance August 20th of 2005 in San Bernardino, California. Several negative events took place, allegedly the fault of Sharon Osbourne. Her actions were reportedly retaliation to lead singer Bruce Dickinson's slighting reality TV, with claims that it was an attack on Ozzy Osbourne himself. What happened is during one of their shows, Sharon had some of her cronies and her entourage go up in the first few rows and throw things at Iron Maiden. So that's one thing there. Smashing Pumpkins. In 2000, Osbourne resigned from managing the Smashing Pumpkins by releasing a memo which said, "It is with great pride and enthusiasm that I took on management of the Pumpkins back in October, but unfortunately I must resign due to medical reasons. Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan is making me sick." In an October 2008 interview, Osbourne revealed that she and Corgan have recently made up. So, So that's your thing there.
Oh, nice. I did not hear that.
She's, had her different issues here, there, and other places around. Not going to get into that too much with her, but so there's Sharon Osbourne, very well connected. Like I said, she was with Lita Ford. That's how her Lita and Ozzy did that duet, because funny, Sharon's managing both of them, So Close Your Eyes Forever, she was kind of good for that. So here we go on with other stuff. Concert information. Dust and Bones, Guns N' Roses tribute band, is playing March 4th, 9 p.m., Grand Casino Hinckley.
Okay, very good. Now
Yes,
we've
they're
seen
really
them.
good.
This is a good band.
Yeah,
They do
like
a
we said
very good
before,
job.
to hit Axl's voice range is hard, and this guy does it. He knocks it out. Medina's got a couple shows coming up I want to talk about. Leather and Lace tomorrow night. So or Saturday night. It's a tribute to Fleetwood Mac and the Women of Rock. So if that's your genre, that's your jam, as the kids say. There you go. And also Last in Line will be playing April 14th. More from them coming up on a future show, but yes, Last in Line, very good band. Look them up, check them out. Trust us. We wouldn't steer you wrong. And Trilogy, Saturday, April 22nd. It's the Doors, Pink Floyd, and Led Zeppelin. And yes, there's other shows in between there, but just not really in our wheelhouse. And I didn't feel like talking about them, so there. Yeah, they always got good shows, and it's not all rock shows. They got some country ones, they got some blues ones, they got other stuff. So it's not just all rock shows at Medina. Check them out. Target Center, Shinedown, April 30th, with 3 Days Grace, and From Ashes to New. Now, there wasn't a lot at the X or Target Center coming up for concerts because of the state tournaments going on here in Minnesota. So, and basketball, the Lynx picking up at Target Center.
That makes sense.
The Wild are a fairly decent hockey team. So at the playoffs, they kind of don't want to book concerts around that. Leave the playoffs up for open. So got some new releases. Kiss, go figure. They're about to end it. So let's do a 3-album set. So there you go.
Wow.
Kiss off the soundboard. Def Leppard. They got a new one coming out. If you're listening to Sirius XM this morning, Hair Nation, you heard it. They had their first song. They played their video release. It's with the Royal Philharmonic. They did, what was it, Animal, I think, or anyway, they got the Philharmonic behind it. They really slow it down. Very slow. Not my thing. I didn't like it. Not saying it's bad, just wasn't for me.
Okay.
I've seen lots of bands have an orchestra behind them, and I've liked the song the way it's turned out. This one, for some reason, didn't do it for me. Now, that was one song. I haven't heard the whole album. I'm willing to give it a chance, but yeah.
Now, when Kiss did theirs, a full live set with the symphony in Australia, I think is where they did theirs, and I don't ever have the urge to pop that in the cassette or the CD player to jam out to. But when I put it in, it's good. It's not the right.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of good though. I
can't say Def Leppard. Yeah, I can listen to Def Leppard almost any time, but not this one. You got to be in the mood for the relaxed, mellow sounds. First thing in the morning, it didn't hit me right. So I'll give it another chance later, but not right now. Sweet and Lynch. Yes. Michael Sweet from Stryper and George Lynch have another one coming out.
Michael Sweet?
They've been doing, this is like, I think their second or third one together. They've worked together in the past. Very cool sound. I know we've talked about it before with Michael Sweet on there. Yeah, and Dokken.
Now, Lynch was in the Lynch Mob, right? Okay.
He is a very good guitarist. Just ask him. He's always got stuff on his social media where he's playing. It's just incredible to watch him go. I've talked about Generation X before with Lou Betancourt and Steve Vai and Zach Well, all these guys on there. George Lynch, I think, could have been in that group, but George Lynch was one of those guys, kind of like in baseball. Ty Cobb was a great player, but no one liked him. Not a lot of guys liked George Lynch. So I think that kept him from being in those super group tours and stuff. And Michael Sweet, for crying out loud, he's with Stryper. He can turn the other cheek and see the other side, give someone a chance. We spoke about their tribute album Stryper did a while ago, where they did Heaven and Hell. Michael Sweet has filled in for Boston for
Yeah.
a while as a singer. So he's not just all Christian rock. We've covered other bands he's in. This is a very cool sound. Yes.
Good
And I got
voice.
one more thing I want to bring up. Something like to call a shameless plug. Check out our Instagram page, our YouTube page. I did a review of the Weird Al movie, or the movie Weird, the El Yankovic movie. So you can check that out either on the audio or there's a video on Spotify or Anchor, whatever it goes by now. Our Instagram page, and also our YouTube page. So if you're watching us on YouTube, this is probably the video before it. If you're listening to us on Spotify, it's probably the show right before it. Yep.
About
Weird.
the life of Weird Al Yankovic, called Weird.
I think it was less than 10 minutes. So you're waiting for the coffee pot to brew one morning on your phone, give it a peek. You're waiting to pick up the kids from school. You're sitting in the parent drive line. Give it a listen.
Love it. Love it.
So,
that looks good. And well, that's it. Anything more on music, concerts, updates?
I might do some more documentary music movie type reviews like the sports movie reviews coming up. Little fillers in the week. So if you got suggestions on a sports movie or a music movie, don't put like Grease in there, a musical. We might do some of those, but we might save that more like the album review of it if it's a musical.
I want to watch the documentary about the Michael Jordan shoes, the sneakers, the documentary about all that
just coming out.
together. Air Jordan. Air. That would be one that I would recommend that you do a review.
I'll have to go to the movie and watch it, and we'll see. I did the Spinal Tap album, but I didn't do it for the movie, so maybe we'll do This Is Spinal Tap coming up. Yes.
Turn it up to 11 because it's one more. All right, but give a listen to Heaven and Hell, a little Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio. Great vocals, the great guitar work. I love the bass,
but it's very rainbow, very I love the drums sounding.
Very hard rock. 39
I think the shortest song on there was
very quick.
3 minutes and 58 seconds or something like that. The rest are all longer songs, so they're good songs.
Okay.
So.
And they've released a deluxe edition and a remastered of this as well. I didn't get into that here, but if for the true big fans out there, there are a deluxe edition of
live
this
versions
album
and stuff,
and different, B cuts, live cuts. Different demo versions and things like that on it, but I didn't think it was worth it here for the show. But good album nonetheless. All right, everyone, have a good week.